Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. This week's featured author is Doug Barry. Doug Barry is a 20-year retired U.S. Air Force veteran. He grew up in Phillipsburg, New Jersey. When he was 15, he and his family moved to Marion Station, Maryland, and bought a poultry farm. Afterwards, he joined the Air Force in 1985 and retired in 2006. He served as an armament systems specialist. Douglas' career took him to Tucson, Arizona, South Korea, Sumter, South Carolina, 2 tours to Kuwait, 2 tours to Saudi Arabia, and other smaller training temporary duty assignments. Now he lives in Camden, South Carolina, and after serving 15 years at Shaw Air Force Base, Doug is back at work at Shaw as a supply technician at the lodging facility. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have Doug Barry. Doug, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. Well, today we're here to talk about your fun, entertaining books. What's the title of at least one of your books?
My newest one is A Day at the Beach with Jasper and Friends. That's the second book that I've done so far.
All right. And they're, I believe, children's books.
Yep. Children's picture books. Yep. They're
Okay.
only about 26, 28 pages long. Just a perfect length for bedtime stories, is all I like to say.
Oh, excellent. I know. And it's the cute character Jasper is a rabbit. So now there's apparently a kind of a cute story to what inspired you to write kids books. Could you go into that real fast for us?
There is. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Growing up, you read kids' books to your kids all the time and everything. And I got thinking, it's like, I should be able to write one of these. I mean, they don't sound like they're too hard, but it seemed like all the stories had been done. You read them. But as time went on, my son actually caught a baby rabbit when he was like 9 years old or so in the backyard, and he brought it into the house and it spent the night. He actually named the rabbit Jasper. So we kept it overnight. We let it go the next morning. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, there's the idea for the story. That's the perfect idea for the story. The rabbit will come in the house. He'll play with the kids. They'll name him. And he'll reluctantly go out the next day. And then he'll try to explain to his woodland friends who won't believe him
Yeah,
that he spent the night in a people house, so he's going to have to try to convince them. And then that's how the story all unfolds.
I
It
like it.
turned out well. I thought I'd sell like maybe, to family and friends, maybe 30, 50 books or so. And then I think real quickly it shot up to about 400, 500 books were sold. And people started asking me what my next book was going to be about. And I'm like, I have no clue. I didn't think, I thought it was going to be one and done.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. It's interesting. I've talked to a couple other children's book authors, and they said kind of the same thing. It was very serendipitous, the creation of their story. Usually they're walking around somewhere and something small like that happens. Your son bringing in a little pet or a rabbit, or someone finding a bird, or someone looking at a particular tree. It's like that could be a cool story. And I've seen a lot of cool books that way that have been inspired that way, which is really neat. Now, how long did it take you to write your book?
The first one was crazy because the idea just snapped so quick in my head. I sat down and I wrote the basic story out in about, I don't even know if it was 30 minutes. And of course, through time, I would reread it and tweak this here, tweak that there, kind of thing. And I pitched it to about 3 or 4 publishers through the course of some years because you get shot down once and you just put it away for like 6 months, and then you're like, oh, let me dig that out again and try it again. You get shot down again, and you're like, oh, darn it. So it stretched out. And then eventually Fulton Publishing said, yeah, it's a cute story. Let's do that. And that was
Awesome.
quite a number of years later. Yeah. So
That's
we
cool.
knocked it out.
Now, are
Right
they?
about when COVID hit.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've found a lot of COVID authors, including myself. Kind of
Yeah.
that's when a lot of people are not doing a lot of other things, so they start writing stories they've had in their brain for years and years, or blow the dust off of the ones they've had in the closet for a while.
Yep.
So
Exactly what happened.
that's cool. I mean, that's kind of the good thing that's come out of COVID. A lot of creativity, and people have thought of how to either survive off of not doing the traditional working, or expand or jump on a project they've wanted to do forever. So this is
Yeah.
kind of same
Exactly.
story for you then. Now I'm always curious, because I'm interested in children's books myself. The illustrations, the illustrator. Did your publisher help you with that? Did you have to find the illustrator? How did that work?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't draw a stick, man. The publisher had about 10 illustrators for me to choose from.
Awesome.
And I picked the one that was most cartoonish, I guess, for lack of a better term. I wanted to keep it simple because of the age group I was writing to. I didn't need a bunch of detail to distract them. I just wanted good, plain images. And they really nailed it. And I found out just recently that I'm going to be able to get the same illustrator for the third book that I'm working on publishing now. So kind of excited about that.
Absolutely. And what's your third one going to be called? Do you have not have a title yet?
I do. I made it a little bit simpler. The first two books kind of had a long title for whatever reason. I don't know. It just kind of worked out that way. But the third one's just simply going to be Farmer Jasper. He's going to go to the farm and feed the animals and plant a garden with his friends and stuff and do all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, nice, nice. Now, when you were writing this, did you have young kids at the time?
For the first one, yes. For the second and third one, not so much. I mean, I had the grandkids, but they don't live in the house with us. So, I mean, they were around, but they weren't around. But it's been a lot of fun. The challenging part that I've noticed the most is to make the images match the words. I very specifically want to make sure that a child can pick up the book, even if they can't read, and still follow the story with the images and not get lost. And then as they get to read, or if they remember what their mom or dad said when they read that page, then maybe they can start putting the story together and read. And I have had at least one lady say that for the first book, her son didn't want, he showed no interest in reading at all. And I don't know if it was the cover photo, cover illustration or what, but she said she got the book. He got so excited, he tore it open, and she's like, that was the first book he ever read cover to cover by itself. So that was really cool. That kind of thing about it's like, okay, I'm making a difference, and that's kind of
Yeah,
what it's about, really.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, inspiring young readers to just pick up something and start reading. Because even like I like how you pointed out, you wanted to pick it up so that young kids who don't know how to read yet could still mimic reading. Because that's the first stage in reading is just pretending to
Yeah,
read. So I mean, that's what we did when we were younger. We looked at our parents. What are they doing right now? Well, we're going to mimic what they do. Same kind of thing. And then it just gets that kind of pride of I finished a book, and then it kind of hopefully that overwhelming joyous feeling
exactly. Yeah.
will translate to other books they pick up and read, and they've now learned a lifelong skill. So it's I like how you've consciously went for that. Like I want these pictures to make it so new readers can and still enjoy it, even though they don't know, the weird squiggly lines and things that make up our words and letters. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that's good. That's great. Now, what feedback have you gotten so far from your first two?
Oh, it's been awesome. Kids absolutely love it. I'll go to there's a artisans market up in Winsboro, South Carolina. I go up there every weekend, and it's really cool. You're doing good stuff when a family will come with their kid and they'll buy like the first book, and then they'll be looking for you the second weekend that they come up, and their kid will run right over. The rabbit guy. There's the rabbit guy, and they run over and they want to buy the second book right away. It's like, all right, this is awesome, and that's the kind of feedback I like. I had at the same place. I had a teacher come up and she read both books while she was standing there talking to me. And she looked at her friend and she's like, "This is truly a children's book." And that was one of the highest compliments I think I've ever gotten. She's like,
Yeah,
a lot of people say they wrote a children's book, but they get lost in the verbiage and the words, and the pictures are kind of wonky and stuff. And she's like, "This is truly, it's like a verse on each page, a rhyming verse on each page kind of thing." She's like, "This is truly a children's book." And I'm like,
yeah.
awesome. That's what I'm shooting for.
Have you ever thought about going into or maybe have you done it already? Going like the elementary schools as a volunteer reader and read your stories to the kids?
I am going to start. I'm a recovering introvert, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
I I become almost catatonic when I get in front of people in groups. So it's going to be interesting. I've got one tentatively scheduled for April, I believe, will be my first one over in West Columbia, Columbia, South Carolina. And we're going to see how that goes. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like we were saying before we came on, I'm not much of an IT guy, but I figured out how to get the pictures of my book on the 32-inch screen TV so I can have the TV off to the side of me. So I don't have to keep, reading the page, turning the book around, showing the kids the pictures. It'll just be up there on that TV screen. And kids, unfortunately, are kind of glued to TVs anyway. So I should make it pretty easy for everybody, provided my technology holds up and I don't get there and go like, "Oh, what's happened? It's not working. What do I do now?"
Well, I used to be a public school teacher, so one thing that we used to use was document cameras. Those things work awesome, and where you can just have it mounted to the desk, and then it's over top. You zoom in and zoom out, and you have your book down there. All you got to do is just you can move it from side to side because picture books are a little wider. You can move it side to side, and okay, here's this. You read it, and then show the picture. Ooh, next one. Then
Oh
most
yeah,
a lot of teachers actually, I don't. I might be going away from it now from what I'm hearing. They're going away from document cameras, but you might be lucky and find certain classrooms still have them. I would just definitely scope that out first because if they've got it, you don't have to bring technology.
yeah,
So,
that would be cool. Yeah, my
yeah.
my daughter actually, she's a fourth grade teacher.
Oh,
She got
cool.
a master's degree, so
Oh,
that was
yeah.
pretty awesome. Her kids, she reads the book to her kids. She's like, my kids love it. Then when they find out it's my dad that wrote it, they really think it's cool.
And there's a lot of local authors around here that are children's book authors, and you don't realize it until you get to the end. You're like, holy cow, I know this person, and it's just really cool to connect with the people are so many people are storytellers. They don't really even know it until they start, thinking about little ideas like that come. So it's really cool that your grandkids are connecting with you as a children's book author too. So I always
Yeah.
love that, and adults can connect with it. You can eat them up real fast, but they still have good little life lessons, and they're still fun. Now, so yes, you have book three being published. Are you looking at doing even more?
As long as the money holds out, I mean, you're not going to get rich doing this by any means.
No, you're not.
Uh, they maintain themselves, as I like to say, which is good. I'm not losing any money. I'm really not making any money. I'm having a good time doing it. It's
Yeah,
really a cool hobby.
it is.
Book four, I'm already writing. I'll just keep cranking them out as I have ideas.
Yeah.
Book four is going to be, everybody's asking me what the next one is going to be, and I've got some input. They're like, well, you got to do a Christmas story. Everybody's got a Christmas story.
Oh yeah. Oh man, you could
So,
do every holiday.
yeah, so I'm exactly right. So I'm gonna split the book up in two. I'm gonna do Santa Claus first half of the book, and then the Christian's Christmas story for the second half of the book. And I'm not quite sure how we're gonna meld them together. It's gonna happen. I know I'm gonna be able to do it. I just don't know the path it's gonna take as we go through the book. It'll happen.
It will. Yeah, that's probably the most fun for me. I love the writing aspect of it and the creating and the tweaking. My favorite part is always that brainstorming. Like, what's this next one going to be like? And you can just
Yeah.
imagine for days and start throwing up ideas, throwing away ideas, bringing things back. And I don't know, that's just the most exciting because it's new. You're charged and ready to go. So I'm glad to see that the ideas are just, cycling in your head.
I'm a little fuzzy past book four, but I'm sure after I get through book four, it'll be like, okay, what? Because I'll do that. It'll be like, all right, what's next? And I'll start
Yeah.
that brainstorming path. And we'll come up
Yeah.
with something. I just know I will.
Brainstorming is dangerous in a good way. I've got like 400 stories in my head, and I have to focus, and it's hard for me to focus on just one sometimes. Now, when you were going through your first book, actually, you know what? All of your publishing, what did you find was the most challenging aspect of publishing your books?
Oh, the illustration when it came down and the publisher's like, okay, the story's great, awesome, but you need to give the illustrator ideas for each page. And I'm like, I've never done this before. I'm like, wow, it was a little overwhelming to me at first because I didn't exactly know how to tackle it. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's think about this. I'm a smart guy, so it's like, rabbit comes into our house, plays with the kids and stuff. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I live in a house. So I literally took my phone and I held it down about knee height. I'm taking pictures of the inside of my house. So the pictures in book one are loosely based on the inside of my house. If anybody wants to know what the inside of my house looks like, that's it. There is a fireplace. Some of the toys that are in the first book, there's a page where Jasper's standing by some toys. Those are my grandkids' toys that were in the low room there where they play. Did the same thing in the backyard. You'll see backyard pictures. I'm sure my neighbors thought I was nuts because I walked down. There's a little pond nearby. I walked down to the pond and I'm like almost laying on the ground trying to get low to get a picture from that perspective that I can give the illustrator. So second book wasn't quite as bad because after I cut my teeth on the first book, I'm like, all right, kind of know, I've worked with this illustrator before. We're kind of on the same page. I know I could kind of just verbalize it a little bit more, and I'm sure this book is going to be even a little bit easier. It's definitely a learning process for sure. That's never stopped me from doing anything though. I don't mind that.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I was always wondering about that with communicating with your illustrator. So, because like when you wrote the words for your first book, it's just you wrote the words down. Did you have like key details on the side, like what you wanted pictures to look like, or was it just the words for the story?
When I sent the information to the illustrator for what I wanted the images to look like, it was just the picture that I took with a description of where I wanted the characters. They didn't actually get the story, which I thought was kind of odd. It's like, wouldn't it be so much easier for the illustrator to be able to read the story and then also see my input at the
Yeah.
same time? But that's not the way the publisher does it. I'm not going to argue with them. I mean, it seems to be working, so I'm not going to upset the apple cart by any means. But it was just strange to me.
Yeah, that does seem a little odd. I would think that you'd want to, because I mean, kids' books aren't hard. They're not a long read. They're usually not a hard
Right?
read
Exactly.
either. That's kind of the point. You'd think that it would
Yeah.
take an illustrator a couple minutes to get through a book. Okay, now I have a great idea what I want this to be. Seems like it would be a, I don't know, roundabout way of getting to the point. I don't know, for this for the
Exactly.
pictures.
Exactly.
That's weird. But hey, like I said, if that's what publishers want to do,
Yeah.
we're gonna do it that way. Now, so I think before we started, you were talking about, you don't just do this as a full-time thing. This is a, fun part-time, passion hobby type deal. What do you do for work
Exactly.
then?
For work, I mean, if we want to just kind of start from the beginning and work my way up to what I'm doing
Sure.
now, 20-year Air Force career. Before that, we were poultry farmers. That was kind of, I learned I didn't want to be a poultry farmer when we were poultry farmers, and that's why I joined the Air Force. So 20 years in the Air Force, I felt was going to be a little bit easier than 20 years of poultry farming. It was all manual back then too. So I mean, when it came to cleaning out the chicken houses in between flocks, it was pitchfork and wheelbarrow. But yeah, so we did the 20 years in the Air Force. Now I've been out almost as long as I was in, so it just time stops for nobody. It just keeps clicking along. Like we were talking before, did some cool stuff along the way. I worked with a race team that did ARCA and NASCAR part time and stuff. That was kind of cool. And
That's cool.
met some awesome, cool people in that, and got to go to all the big racetracks. And my first deal, just a quick story about that, was ARCA. That's like a level below NASCAR for those who aren't familiar with ARCA racing. And actually, NASCAR, I believe, owns ARCA now. They actually bought them.
Oh,
But the first race I ever went to with Rich Woodland Racing was Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we were the race right after. That's back when they had the NASCAR All Star race up at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And I'm sitting, my first time ever going to a race with this crew, and I'm sitting on pit road wall with the place is just packed with people because of the NASCAR race. Nobody came to see the ARCA race, really. That sounds maybe bad to say, but everybody was there for the All Star race, for the NASCAR All Star race. And I had one of those, how do you like me now? I made it kind of moments. So I'm sitting on that pit road wall looking up at all the just throngs of people and just the roar of the crowd. It's like, wow, that was just surreal to me. It's like, I
yeah.
made it.
I-
I always wanted to do this. I finally did. But so that's cool, and we did a lot of cool things with that. My kids got to see me on TV pushing the race car back because we broke on the first lap. That was kind of, they were
Ooh,
yelling at my youngest son, the one who caught the rabbit. He's yelling at the TV, and he's looking at his mom, going, "Why can't Daddy hear me?" He thought he could talk to me through the TV.
that's so good. How
And
old was he when he saw you do that?
ah, he had to be only about 4 or 5,
Okay, okay.
maybe even younger than that. It's been a while ago, so I've slept since then, as I like to say, and it's hard to remember sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, we
still
did
pretty
that.
cool though.
Yeah,
Or if
yeah, I
I'm
got that
dad's on
on.
TV.
I'm going to really date myself now because I have that race on VHS somewhere in this house. I'm not sure where it is or if I can
Yeah.
even still watch it, but it's somewhere. So I did that, and then another thing I did kind of off the cuff is I tried out for the Cincinnati Reds. That was kind of interesting. I wanted to do that just because my dad was a baseball player back in high school, and he was actually scouted by a couple of teams. So that
Cool.
was kind of cool. And so I'm like, well, I'll give back to him a little bit. I'm not going to make it. I knew that going in, but it's like I'm going to do it so I can say I did it. So I went out and I tried out for Cincinnati Reds. During the tryout, I kind of basically stunk up the show, but I didn't care. Uh, I did get put at third base at one point in time. My only claim to fame. The pitchers ruled the day. Not too many people were hitting off the pitching, even though it was subpar. It's compared to the majors, it was low level subpar pitching. But they put me on third base, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have my butt handed to me over here. If I don't get killed, I'm going to be happy. But I caught everything that came my way, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I showed up a little bit, but not a whole lot. So that was kind of cool.
That's
I'm glad I
great.
did it, so I can say I did it. Yeah.
Heck
And,
yeah.
but now, but then I did, then we did the Ram Automotive thing, doing performance racing clutches and stuff, and did that for 13 years. And now we're back at Shaw, doing the supply technician stuff at their lodging section. So
Cool.
it's cool, nice, laid back, relaxed work. Offers me time like this today to get off a little early and do podcasts and maybe go do a reading when I finally do branch out to that. So they're real good about that for me.
That's really nice. Especially, I know a lot of veterans retired and those who stayed in 10, 4 years, however 15 years, however long, and they get to finally find a job where it's usually military is a little more stressful. So find a job that's a little less stressful, more family friendly, easier on the
Yeah,
body, hopefully. And
yeah, they don't mind wearing you out. Those 20 years they got you, that's for sure. They will wear your body out. I'm doing physically a lot better than some of the guys I work side by side with. I've seen them, and it's like, man, these guys are just their bodies are just wore out. It's the constant grind of being a bomb loader that I was, being on your knees loading practice bombs, pushing bombs up on the bomb racks and stuff. And these guys, just about everybody's got neck issues or
oh
they've
yeah,
got some stuff sealed up on their neck and stuff, welded together, the vertebrae and stuff, and their backs are all jacked up. And I went out to eat with one guy I hadn't seen in a long time, and I felt so sorry for him. He could hardly get in and out of the booth at Chili's when we sat down to eat lunch. It's like, goodness gracious.
yeah.
Here I am still bouncing around at 59 years old, little aches and pains, but nothing really to write home about. So, considering myself very lucky.
Yeah, I know. Count your blessings there. That's for sure. I know a lot of folks who are my age in their 30s, and they're having problems with stuff because they were just going hard on whatever job, whether military, they were sent overseas, or they were just working construction, and the knees are shot, their back is
Yeah.
shot, they've got bad shoulders. I'm like, you're setting yourself up for failure, man. You got to find something a little easier, or I don't know what else you do at that point. But a lot of people love doing the construction stuff. They just got to kind of suck it up and deal with it. But it's
Yeah.
gonna come back and bite them hard when they get late 50s, 60s onward. It's gonna be rough. But people got to
Yeah.
make a living. Question I have: the chicken farming is fascinating and hilarious a little bit to me. Just the thought of it.
Yeah.
How many chickens were on your farm?
If memory serves right, we had three chicken houses. They were long. We were on 3 acres of land, about 45,000 a flock.
Holy
Was
cow! 45,000.
Yeah.
000.
Yep.
How do you even manage that? Even like I can imagine maybe automated be a little easy. How do you even manage
Yeah.
45,000 chickens?
Yeah. It was like I said earlier. It was all when we did it. It was basically all manual. We had this giant hopper that was on a track, and that's where the food came down out of like this big silo looking thing. It wasn't really a silo, but I don't know how else to describe it. The folks
Yeah.
may not know what I'm talking about. And it would come down, and we'd open up the chute, and it would fill up this hopper that's on a track with feed, and we would push it through the chicken house manually. And then we'd have like these 20 or 25-pound scoops that you have to grab with both hands, and you're scooping the feed out and you're dumping it into these hanging feeders. That was a daily occurrence. That was sometimes twice a day. I remember getting up and helping mom go out and feed the chickens before we go to high school and stuff.
Oh man.
School and come home and do it all over again. And it was all manual. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of late nights when the chicken companies would come with their large trucks to pick up the flock. It was they would do it at night so the birds would be disoriented and hopefully a little easier to catch. All
Oh,
that stuff was done by hand. They had catching crews that came in and caught the birds and put them in crates and put them on the truck and took them off the market. It was.
wow.
I decided pretty quickly that is not what I wanted to do.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you don't want to be a chicken farmer? That sounds great.
The area we grew up in, there really wasn't a lot to do. There was Lower Eastern Shore of Maryland. If you're not a chicken farmer, you're a fisherman, waterman, working the water, oysters, crabs, that sort of thing. And if you're not either one of those, you're what they call a truck farmer, poultry, produce sort of stuff, just
Okay.
growing. Man, I'll tell you what, farming's hard work. I probably learned a lot of my work ethic there because you just got to go, 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 go. There's no tired is not a word. It's not an option.
You just go till you fall over, take a nap in the dirt, wake up and do it some more.
There were days where I found my dad asleep in the chicken house, so and he was a little he was a little jumpy. So when you went in there at night, it's like you try to make as much noise as you can, or you might catch a right hook if you sneak up on him
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
Nice going up because he's a little flighty.
Oh my
So
God. I'm sure the
yeah,
Air Force loved your work ethic.
yeah, they did. They didn't have to really beat that into because it was
Yeah,
pretty much already there. So
that's good. That's great. Wow. Wow. Wow.
that's pretty cool.
Wow. Back to the books. I was gonna say, I'm like, you should do a one with Jasper goes to the chicken farm. I think that'd be kind of
Yeah,
a
that's always an option. That's kind of a throwback to believe it or not, in the third book there are going to be chickens, and he's going to feed the chickens. So I mean, there's
oh,
a little
there
bit
you
of that
go.
that one,
A little homage to your past work and in
a
life
little
there.
bit.
I like it.
I'm debating about putting a little sign because at one point in the book they walk down the road, and I'm debating about putting a little sign up that says Berry Farms or something, or maybe an homage to my hometown, Marion Station, Maryland population, whatever, or something on the sign off the side of the road.
I think you absolutely should do that. At least that
Yeah, there's
from an outsider looking in, I think that's a great little detail. And they might not even pick it up until they like know you, like, oh, that's great. Those little pieces that are just fun to have. When you were writing, did you do any kind of like quota writing? Like I want this much done in a day or a week or
oh no,
no, just kind of I can't
no,
imagine
it's
that being the thing with your genre of book.
I'm not in a hurry to get any books out. It's truly a hobby, so it's just I just kind of write as the ideas come, kind
Mhm.
of thing. I don't try not to get too wrapped around the axle. I actually made a post on LinkedIn because and this kind of goes into another thing that I like to do. I don't like to recognize the word failure in anything I do. You learn, you don't fail. So I took a picture of a notebook pad. I filled it up with words, verses I was going to use, stuff I was going to use in the book. I scratched it all out, but one line, and I posted that on LinkedIn. I said, "This isn't failure. It's 85% failure. Sure, stuff I'm not going to use, but it's not failure. I got that one part,
Yep.
and that's what you got to hang your hat on, and you just press on from there. I didn't fail that 85% of the time. I learned that that's not what I want to put in there,
Hmm.
and just keep digging."
Can't remember who said it. I think it was Thomas Edison or something, and basically he failed 1,000 times before actually creating the light bulb. And it's like, well, you failed 1,000 times. No, I just learned 1,000 times how not to make a light bulb.
Exactly.
Pretty much. And I always thought of it as fail. Yes, failure is a terrible thing. I think that's always a learning opportunity. You
Yeah.
failed, but you learned, you grew in some aspect. You still got better at something else.
The military is pretty much where I learned that because I was frozen by failure in my youth, and probably a lot of kids are. You're always trying to impress your parents, your teacher, whatever, and the failure just freezes you up and keeps you from maybe getting to where you need to be. And the Air Force really broke me out of that because one of the things they would say is make a decision, whether it's wrong or right. You can't be frozen. The job you do, like loading bombs, you've got to make a decision. You can't
Yeah.
just stop, or that's going to be bad. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
So you make a decision, right or wrong, and you live with it. You deal with it. You make it work because there may not be an option to not make it work. So you just make it work, and you just press on.
Yeah, heard that before. It was like the best thing you could do in a situation like that is to make the right decision. The second best is to make the wrong decision. The worst thing you can do is to not make a decision at all.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
For your books in, I have only read your second one. I've read your first one yet. And your second one, you've got a bunch of little friends. Are the friends going to continue with Jasper to infinity and beyond?
No, it's they're gonna follow for the most part around. I kind of it's interesting you would ask that because I kind of been thinking in my head. It's like the same thing. Is like, am I going to keep the same one? And you may see it weed down to a group of three or four. I don't want to say that because, like in the second one, the swan is in because she moved to the pond and showed him
Yeah.
the beach. The third one, she's still going to be in, but it's like, am I going to carry him through? Actually, now that I think about it, the fourth book for the Christmas story, I'm thinking about doing the birds aren't there because birds fly south for the winter. So the birds aren't going to be there.
There you go.
It's just going to be the other critters. It's going to fluctuate a little bit. It's going to
Okay.
stay a lot of the same, but it is going to fluctuate just a little bit.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Well, that's good that you'll think about that. And again, it's like you said, you're just on the precipice of right now you're focused on three, precipice of getting, looking at four. So I'm sure your mind's eye not quite focused on those future ones you're working on the right now, which is book three. So
Yeah.
If people want to get copies of your book, or maybe even hire you to come read to some kids at a elementary school, where can they get a copy?
Yeah, the book is quite honestly pretty much available everywhere online. Amazon, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, Walmart.com. I think it's even on Target.com, and a bunch of other companies that have web stores. It's not available in physical stores so much anymore. I found out through the course of making the book, they put a little title or a kind of book on there is print on demand, and a lot of the big box stores don't like to stock print on demand books for whatever reason. I don't know. You order the book, it
Yeah,
gets sent to you. You stock it. I don't quite understand that,
yeah,
and I may never, but that's the way they set up. So we're working on that. I'd like to get the book out like some gift shops, that sort of thing. I've contacted a couple the gift shops in airports. I've contacted them a couple of times, and they gave me a no right off the bat, but they didn't give me a no because it's a print on demand book. So that may be an avenue for me to look at again at a
yeah.
later time. I have a website. It's going to be Jasper a dash the letter N another dash friends.com. That's the website. I think it's got my email address in there. You can send a message on there as well, and I'll get that. There's a Facebook page. It's called Jasper's Rabbit Adventures. Or if you put in Jasper and Friends again, I'm sure it'll probably come up. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, both with pretty much the same handle. It's at Warthog462. Warthog because cut my teeth in the Air Force on the A-10, and Warthog is the nickname of the A-10. So
Oh, okay.
that's where that came into play. But those are the places. My personal email address is md2sc91@gmail.com. And that's basically Maryland to South Carolina 91
Oh, okay,
at
okay.
gmail.com. Hold of me and get my books for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Get a hold of them. They're cute books, especially if you got new readers and they love woodland creatures. And Jasper's a cute little rabbit, so what's not to love? So definitely go and pick up some copies of his books and give them away to grandkids, kids. Maybe you want to just enjoy them because who doesn't love a good children's book? I mean, come on, who doesn't love a good children's book?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Doug, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule of work and producing more awesome stories for everybody. So I appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
So, and then of course, down the road, as you get more and more, your pile of children's books just grows and grows. We want to do another one of these. I'd be happy to have you back on and talk about more stories and cool things like that you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd be glad to do that for sure.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Go get some awesome children's literature. You never can have enough of those. All right, guys. You have a great day, and again, stay mighty. Keep reading. Are you an author? Do you know someone who is? If so, then message me, Ryan Oliver, at ryanmoliver.com to set up a free appointment to discuss being showcased on the Mighty Books podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the Mighty Books YouTube channel and share the link to this and more episodes with your friends and family. Thanks for listening. So long for now. Stay mighty and keep reading.